feeling pressured around the language, word counts, character counts, and the pressure to get it right. I've heard you talk about good, better, best as a way to think about writing. I wonder if you could help maybe put folks put their mind at ease maybe a little bit, thinking about the pressure to write those perfect objectives, those perfect outcomes, those perfect details in their logic model.
hmm And so, if getting back to the question of should we have one, if you have one, then you're set up for success in this, okay? Because your logic model is going to lay out the details of the resources you need to do your programs, the types of activities in which you employ those resources. So, the classes, the food pantry, open hours, the distribution of food. In other words, your activities, usually very simple for us to describe in a narrative. And then that leads into if we employ those resources in those activities, what are those outputs, the things we can count, what comes out of those activities, number of people served, and then the outcomes. What are the changes that our activities bring about in the communities we serve? And so if you have that laid out in your logic model, already thought through by your team, then that's the tool from which you're going to draw that narrative. And so if you're a funder, the way I like to think of this is if you're a funder, let's pretend we have a $50,000 check to write for the strongest proposal that indeed fits within our character and word limits, right? And we've asked the question in our narrative, what impact? What are the outcomes? What are your objectives and outcomes that you expect from your work? We're looking at our logic model and we can say, all right, we can talk about all those activities, all the people that it takes to do our work. Hopefully there's another place in the narrative where we can go into that detail. But in this section, if we're focused on objectives and outcomes, then we can go into what I call the best description and be as specific as we can. You may have heard of SMART objectives, those specific, measurable,
Achievable,
right, achievable, R,
relevant, or realistic. I know
relevant,
you're testing my
relevant,
knowledge.
and time bound. I blanked on the R and the T. Anyway, you can see how that SMART acronym can help us write those objectives in a concise way, again, within those word limits, a concise expression of the specifics behind what we're going to do and the impact we expect. And so when we're talking about good, better, best in narrative, all of those things are valid detail to include in our narrative. But if we drill into that more specific detail, so for example, in our food pantry example, 89% of clients receiving food assistance realized a goal toward their self-sufficiency plan, right? Or somehow we're talking about then specifically the number of people for whom we expect to see change as a result of activities. Does that make sense? That's what we're describing as best. We're not saying the other information is important or wrong in any sense, but we're saying if I'm a funder with $50,000 to give, I want to know exactly what impact my $50,000 is going to buy toward that problem of hunger in the community.
Yes, that really helps. That makes sense. And I want to call out this good, better, best. That's what you're going to be talking about in our upcoming free lunch and learn, right? June 14th at 12 Eastern. You're going to dive in for a deeper conversation on good, better, best. It's free. If you're watching this recorded and it's after June 14th, follow the link and you'll still get to that session. It'll just be the recorded version versus the live one where you can ask Julie more questions than what we're even able to get fit into our office hour framework today.